The Fletcher 1000 is a precision oval circle cutter for producing mats for the professional framer. Using a unique mechanism, the Fletcher 1000 cuts perfect ovals of any shape from a circle of 2.5-inch diameter to an oval up to 20.5 inches long. The ovals do not lean, and the ends are perfectly formed no matter how slender the oval. You have complete control of placement of the cutout on the mat board and accurate sizing of the oval or circle. Multiple openings, double mats, and V-grooves are a snap. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate the technique of using the Fletcher 1000, as well as some helpful tips to make its use easy and instill confidence in making mats which enhance the framer's reputation. These are typical of the mats produced on the Fletcher 1000. Simple single opening ovals, double mats with V-grooves, combination ovals, circles, and straight cuts. It is important to locate the Fletcher 1000 for convenient access to the components you will be setting. The height of the base should be about 2 or 3 inches above waist level to make it easy to view the 2 yellow beams beneath the overhead arm. Also, the right side of the machine must be accessible for positioning the T-bar and reading its scale. The easiest way to use the Fletcher 1000 is to separate the task into 3 parts. 1. Plan the opening in the mat and the placement of the mat in the machine. 2. Follow a step-by-step process of making the proper settings on the machine. And 3. Make the actual cut. First, we will measure the artwork and decide the size oval required and the size of the mat board. At the same time, determine where we want the opening cut in the mat. Let's assume it is to be centered. You do not have to actually mark the center of the opening, but you need to know how far it is from the top and one side of the mat. We will cut a 5 by 8 oval in an 11 by 14 mat board. Loosen the T-bar locking knob, which is accessible from the right side of the machine. The T-bar scale is under spring pressure to keep it down on the base. It is easy to move if you press down on the T-bar with both hands while sliding it to the desired dimension. Since the center of the oval will be 7 inches from the top of the mat, set the T-bar to its 7-inch position and lock it firmly. You may notice the locking action has to swing the T-bar into a square position. It helps to wiggle the clamp with your left hand while tightening the locking knob. This assures the T-bar has been squared. Be sure it is tight. It is important to always use a slip sheet under the mat you are cutting. A piece of mat board about 22 inches by 20 inches is a convenient size. Slide the slip sheet under the T-bar scale as far as it will go. We have set the distance from the top of the mat to the center of cutout at 7 inches. Now we will locate the mat so one edge is 5.5 inches from the center in a left to right measurement. Notice the scale on the T-bar has a 0 in the center, and inch measurements increase in both directions from center. We can use either the left or the right edge of the mat since the oval will be centered. However, in this case we will use the left edge. The mat must be under the clamp scale and pushed all the way to the rear as far as it will go. Slide the mat left and right until the edge is lined up with the 5.5-inch mark on the scale. Now apply both clamps to secure the mat so it will not slip during cutting. You should feel the clamps pushing down on the mat. If they need to be tighter, unclamp them and turn the adjusting knobs under the clamp in a clockwise direction. Then reapply both clamps. The measuring stop is a convenient device to use. Slide it to contact the edge of the mat and tighten. If you wish to reposition the mat later, the stop will assure it returns to exactly the same position. Part 1 has now been completed. We've located the mat in the machine so the oval will appear in the center of the mat. Now the second step is to set the machine so it will produce a 5 by 8 oval. 4 items have to be set, and following is a convenient sequence. All adjustments should be made with the handle at the left or in the 9 o'clock position. First, set the width of the oval to 5 inches. This is done by positioning the cutting bar, which moves the cutting head to the left or right. Use your left hand to reach around the back of the cutting bar where you will find its locking knob. Loosen the knob and slide the bar until 5 is read at the indicator viewed from the front. Now lock the bar tightly. A tip is to lightly push up on the bar while tightening. Recheck the setting. Next, set the offset. This is the term commonly used in oval cutting to represent the difference between the width and length of an oval. Since we are cutting a 5 by 8 oval, the offset is 3. On top of the machine is the offset disc with a scale on it. Loosen the locking knob in the center of the disc. Since the handle points to the left, we can slide the disc left and right. Move it until its scale reads 3 and retighten the locking knob. Now adjustments 3 and 4 will position the 2 yellow beams beneath the overhead arm. Again, reach around back with the left hand and loosen the smaller locking knob which holds the lower yellow beam in place. Slide the beam with your right hand until 3 shows along the edge of the black hub. Tighten the knob firmly. The locking knob for the upper yellow beam is in front and should now be loosened. We can slide it back and forth by moving the aluminum bar just above the beam. Locate it so its scale reads 3 just to the right of the black hub and tighten firmly. It is a good idea to now rotate the cutting handle all the way around in a counterclockwise direction to be sure the mechanism turns freely. If it does not, recheck the settings of the disc and both yellow beams. They must all read 3. Anytime a bind is felt, do not force the handle. Stop and recheck your settings. The third step is to cut the mat. Rotate the knurled sleeve above the cutter head with your thumb to bring the head down until it lightly touches the mat. It is a good idea to hold the mat down with your right hand to be sure the head pushes the mat flat on the table surface. Start rotating the handlebar slowly counterclockwise while inserting the left blade. A good tip is to place one finger of the left hand on the rear part of the blade to help it start downward. Only plunge the blade part way through the mat on the first rotation. A reading of 2.5 on the blade scale is a good start. As you complete the first rotation, slowly insert the blade to about 3 without stopping the handlebar. It is important to maintain a constant, slow speed throughout both rotations. If you want to be sure the mat is completely penetrated before withdrawing the blade, use a spare blade, stick it into the fallout near the right side, and lift. If the mat is not completely cut, you can insert the blade further and make another rotation. If the cut is completed, first withdraw the blade, then turn the knurled sleeve to raise the head, unclamp the mat, and remove it from the machine. A V-groove will enhance the mat even more. Place the mat back in the machine using the measuring stop to assure it is located as before. Be sure to use the same top edge of the mat. Apply the clamps. Normally you know you plan to make a V-groove and would not remove the mat until it is finished. Decide what spacing you wish to have between the oval and the V-groove. If you want 1/2 inch, then the overall width of the V-groove cut will be 6 inches. Reposition the cutter bar as you did before. Loosen its locking knob with the left hand, slide it to read 6, and retighten the knob. The overall shape of the V-groove will be the same as the oval, so the offset remains the same, 3 inches. It is therefore not necessary to change the offset disc and the yellow beams because they must remain at 3. Once again, lower the head to the mat with the knurled sleeve and start the handlebar rotation. Insert the left blade to about 2½ on its scale and continue the rotation all the way around. Now retract the left blade and insert the right-hand blade also to about 2½. Be sure to insert the blade while slowly rotating the handlebar. After a complete rotation, withdraw the right blade, raise the head with the knurled sleeve, unclamp and remove the mat. Now you can see how the overall appearance of the artwork has been enhanced by the addition of a V-groove. Be sure you do not completely penetrate the mat while V-grooving. The blade scales are just guides. The thickness of a mat will not change the V-groove setting, but certainly it will affect how far the blade must project to completely cut through. 3/16" foam board, for example, requires a reading of about 4 to plunge the blade far enough to penetrate the material. If you continue to use the same slip sheet, move it from time to time so the cuts are not always in the same place, just as you would move the slip sheet when cutting straight mats. There are 2 important rules to remember. 1. If you are cutting an oval with less than 2-inch offset, place both yellow beams at 6 inches. Such a small offset does not require the yellow beam mechanism. 2. If the width of the oval is small enough, under 4 inches, the lower yellow beam may interfere with the knurled knob on the head. In such cases, use the shorter lower yellow beam provided in the parts bag. You should refer to the instruction label on top of the overhead arm as a reminder of these 2 rules. You can think of a circle as an oval with 0 offset, and you can ignore the yellow beams. Simply select the width or diameter of the circle and set the cutter bar to that dimension. Then move the offset disc to 0. Proceed to cut out the mat as you would an oval. To repeat some important rules, remember to always make the machine settings with the handlebar in the 9 o'clock position. Cutting is always performed with a counterclockwise rotation. Insert the blade gradually while the head is moving. Make 2 revolutions to complete the cut, plunging the blade further during the second rotation. If a bind is detected while rotating, stop and check the settings of the offset disc and both yellow beams. Always use a sharp blade. A separate head is provided with the Fletcher 1000 to allow you to score circles or ovals on glass. Remove the mat cutting head by unscrewing its holding screw in the rear. Install the glass cutting head by reattaching the screw. Place a sheet of glass on the base and lightly clamp it in position so it will not slip. The glass should be at least 2 inches larger than the oval on all 4 sides. Rotate the knurled sleeve as you do to bring the head downward. When the wheel touches the glass, continue turning the sleeve until the pin in the slot moves up about 1/16 inch. This provides the constant pressure needed to make a good score on the glass. Now rotate the handlebar 1 full turn counterclockwise, stopping when the wheel just touches its starting point. Never score glass more than once. Remove the glass, turn it upside down, and place it on a piece of foam board. Although the glass is scored, we need to complete the breakout. Press down on the glass with your thumb over the score. You will see and perhaps hear the crack as the score propagates through the glass and runs a short distance from the thumb. Move to the end of the break and press again with the thumb and watch the break run further. Continue this action all the way around the score. It may appear the glass is completely separated, but it is not. Turn the glass upside down again so you are looking at its top side where it was scored. Using a good hand glass cutter, such as a scoremaster, make 4 or 5 radial scores starting about 1/8 inch from the oval and traveling off the edge of the glass as shown. Use lightweight cut-running pliers and carefully break out each radial score. It is important not to score the radial lines touching the oval, or the final breakout will probably travel through and ruin the oval. It is an important safety rule to always wear safety glasses when working with glass. The most important maintenance requirement of the Fletcher 1000 is to keep it clean. It's a good idea to cover it when not in use. Dust the whole machine occasionally, especially the plastic sheet under the offset disc. It is accessible by removing the disc. Be sure to replace the disc in the same position so the scale is above the handle. The easiest way to change blades is to remove the head. Remove the head holding screw as was done to switch to glass cutting. Be sure both blades are retracted to avoid inadvertently cutting yourself while handling the head. Pull out the blade plunging knob and rotate in the direction you would to retract the blade. This locks the knob out of the way. It is now easy to pull the blade up out of the head so it can be safely discarded. Insert a new blade point first in its slot. Rotate the blade inserting knob downward so the drive pin engages the hole in the blade. Repeat this process the same way for the other blade. 2 small set screws have been provided to be sure the blade can slide up and down with little or no play. Use the smallest of the hex wrenches provided in the parts bag to adjust the blade screws. With a blade in place, turn the set screw in until it touches the blade. Then back the screw out about 1/4 of a turn. Check for free movement of the blade by operating the blade inserting knob. The blade should easily slide up and down in its slot. A piece of no-mar tape is wrapped around the bottom of the head to avoid scuffing the mat. It can be readily replaced if necessary. As the blade travels around in its path, it should always be the same distance from the baseboard. If not, an oval will not be completely cut free all the way around. Leveling the baseboard to the blade may be required. Remove the slip sheet and set the cutter bar to about 10. Slide the T-bar back as far as it will go to get it out of the way. Bring the head down with the knurled sleeve so it just lightly touches a piece of scrap paper under the head. Pull the paper slightly to determine how much drag is caused by squeezing it under the head. If the drag is excessive at one location, the base needs to be dropped away from the head. This is done by turning its flathead screw clockwise. Conversely, if there is too little drag, the base can be raised by turning the appropriate flathead screw counterclockwise. Trial and error is required until you feel the same drag all the way around the rotation of the head. The Fletcher 1000 allows you to express your creativity to the fullest. Mats such as these add individuality to your work. Take care of your machine and it will add to your reputation and revenues for many years.